As you know, colleges are not a great place for diverse points of view or for encouraging young people to be resilient. And, as you know, British universities are even nuttier than American universities. Case in point, professors at Britain's Bath University were recently told by the school's diversity network, whatever that is, to avoid using the phrase, as you know. Because, as you know, it could make out-of-the-loop students feel inadequate and drive them into a shame spiral that will result in misery and self-doubt. As you know, Kathy Aru is the founding publisher of Catalina magazine, and of course, as you know, we refer to her as the liberal Sherpa because she guides us through the rocky terrain of modern progressive thought. She joins us tonight. Kathy, thanks a lot for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I'm often confused, which is one of the reasons we're so grateful to have you here as our spirit guide, by these segments. But this one maybe more than most because I thought prefacing a sentence with "as you know" would be a self-esteem booster. Because you're suggesting to the person, you already know this because you're so smart. As you know, Kathy Aru, and you feel like, yeah, well, the person has confidence in me. Well, they're telling me it's bad for self-esteem? How?
Well, you're causing self-doubt, actually, when you say that to me, because I don't know. I may not know. Therefore, I have self-doubt and would not do as well as perhaps other students who may know. So I would feel that another student knows something that I don't know, and the diversity department at Bath University has found that students that do not know find this phrase, this almost idiom, to be offensive and a professor talking down to a student, and they don't do as well in their classes. So, as you know, is a phrase that specifically causes self-doubt. I'm not saying as you know.
We know, and as you know, the research has shown there's a direct connection between low self-esteem and self-doubt and achievement. People who feel inadequate work harder to become more impressive. So we should inculcate self-doubt, I would say, in students. But isn't it also a reflection of reality? Like, if you already knew, then what are you doing in college? Students are ignorant. That's why they're in school, to become learned, right?
Well, then it doesn't make sense for a professor to say to a student, as you know, in a classroom, you're using unnecessary words, which E.B. White's style manual would say you shouldn't use unnecessary words or unnecessary phrases to make your point. And using as you know is unnecessary, and you're not communicating properly with your audience. So it's not needed, and they're urging the professors not to use this phrase. It's not necessary.
But they're not urging it because they have a commitment to clear language. I mean, the people who run the humanities departments in colleges can barely speak English. As you know, they speak in this kind of esoteric educationese that means literally nothing, and that's the point, to cloak their own ignorance.
This is a diversity department that's urging this. They're urging.
Then everything I said times 5, it's even more true. But don't you want to patronize your students? Don't you want to make them feel that they know nothing? You want to highlight their ignorance because it will inculcate in them a thirst for hunger and knowledge.
It's doing the opposite, which is what they found at Bath University. The diversity department found that at this university, the students are saying that, as you know, is actually causing self-doubt. So, no, we're not supposed to patronize the students. We're supposed to fill them with confidence, and there will be wonderful leaders in the future, and we want a world like that. We want confident students.
No, I think we have a lot of confident students. I interview them all the time. I would say, in fact, we have too many confident students. If you know nothing, and most students literally know nothing, then you should be deeply insecure and silent as you learn. But let me just ask you this. If a student is so undone by having a professor use the phrase, as you know, isn't that student not really qualified for college? Shouldn't he be selling aluminum siding or doing something useful? I mean, you're not really ready for college if that undoes you, are you?
Well, isn't it wonderful that the student is speaking up at their college and saying the professor are using terms that are really not making sense, are causing self-doubt, they're speaking down to us, and as the audience, this communicator is not making sense. So, yeah, they don't feel confident, and they are speaking up and telling this university, we feel more confident if this phrase would be eliminated. They're urging the professors to get with the program, get with this new era that we're living in. The students are diverse, and they may not have English
Join the revolution or be eaten. Very quickly, as a final question, do you personally really want to live in a world where college students are empowered to talk a lot? Honestly.
To talk a lot, to speak up,
to give their opinions, speak up, be heard, whatever the kind of common description of it is now. Do you really want to live in that world?
Yeah, I want to live in a better world. I like a world that changes with the times. I don't want to live in a world that's...
I know you do. I know you do. That's
15.
why we love you.
Oh, okay.
And that's why we're having you back on Monday.
Great.
For a segment that's even more confusing than this one, and I can't wait for that. Kathy Ruth, thanks very much.
Thanks.
Well, the FBI is supposed to be protecting Americans from crime. Our next guest says the FBI's war on civil liberties has made them a threat to you and me. He joins us after the break. Public service announcement for you. We didn't expect to be bringing you this, but our crack control room team just minutes ago spotted the creepy porn lawyer in his natural habitat on CNN. They had the sound off, so they couldn't hear what he was saying, but honestly, it hurt our feelings a little bit. This is maybe the 5th or 6th other TV network he has done in recent days. We've invited him repeatedly onto this show, and he has repeatedly turned us down. We're going to ask him one more time, and we know that he's watching. Creepy porn lawyer, you always have a home on this 8 p.m. program. Anytime, we'll clear the decks for you. Hope to see you soon. Well, the FBI, like other federal organizations, has been trusted with enormous power. They can break down your front door. They can put you in jail. They're supposed to use these powers to protect Americans, and they do to some extent. But increasingly, we've seen instances of the FBI abusing its power and depriving citizens of their civil liberties. We have an obligation to speak out against that. The most obvious recent case is that of Carter Page. He was labeled a foreign agent and spied on for more than a year by the Obama administration based on the assertions in the Steele dossier. Assertions which the FBI never even bothered to verify. What should we make of this? Mark Penn was an advisor to Bill Clinton. He joins us tonight. Mark, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
So I've been struck not simply by the fact this happened, but by the reaction to it. Here you have a guy who was a naval officer, Annapolis graduate, never been charged with anything, and he was spied on for a year, and the normal chorus of civil libertarians have been totally silent. Why is that?
I find it's incredible. I think people just use talking points that they had before you could actually read the warrant. I think any fair-minded person who reads this warrant comes away with the conclusion that there was no probable cause, that they scared a bunch of judges with 10 stories about potential Russia collusion, the Steele dossier, the Yahoo story that was really from Steele, and even when Steele was fired and he was compensated, he was actually on the payrolls of the FBI, the DNC, and the Hillary Clinton campaign at the same time, mind you. Even when that was discovered, they continue to use this information, indicating they had nothing else. The idea that a government can spy on political campaigns with no evidence is frightening and needs to be corrected with legislation immediately.
So the precedent this sets, we're all living in this moment, and it's very hard for us to see even a week ahead, but you've been in the White House and political campaigns. There will be another administration at some point, and then one after that. What does this mean for them? Will any president ever be able to trust that the FBI is not spying on him or his campaign?
Well, I saw in '98, working with President Clinton, the stress and strain on the president, the White House, the warping of decisions that occur with these investigations. You can see this. I don't see it personally, but you can see the kind of stress and strain now. Everyone who participated in the campaign, everyone who is an associate of Donald Trump is being shaken down, investigated, reviewed. This kind of thing is just not compatible with an open democracy where we decide things by elections. We've got to make changes here because you're going to be afraid about the FBI, the CIA, all of the intelligence agencies, what they could be doing, and not only when you're the president, but when you're running a campaign against the president. What sets this country apart is peaceful transition of government.
We're really playing with some very heavy-duty things here. Very quickly, do you think that in the next year or two there's a legislative answer that can restore confidence in these agencies?
Oh, I think that an ombudsman has to be appointed for all of these warrants in the FISA court. I think that for any warrants that really involve Americans, and particularly Americans in political campaigns, a special, really, judges and procedure so that the highest bar is established. And it's unbelievable that we haven't already moved to do that.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Mark Penn, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maxine Waters back in the news. Especially amazing this time. Don't go away.